the Strength Beyond Struggle podcast and Ending the Silence program of the National Alliance for Mental Illness, NAMI, sponsored by Access. In every episode, we deal with difficult mental health topics, including suicide. So if you're struggling, remember, you can always get help by calling 988. Hey, welcome to the Strength Beyond Struggle podcast. And today I have with me Aeron Prosek. He's a queer man who deals with a host of mental and physical health diagnoses. He also works with me on the NAMI Arizona Ending the Silence program. He is what we call a young adult presenter. But today we're coming together to talk about an interesting topic. It's discrimination, but discrimination kind of within. It's sad to think, but it's within an organization. So let's say you're working in the racist discrimination organization and you have people that are discriminating against you. Aeron's going to talk about not only, discrimination as a whole. It's so difficult. And so you want to talk to us a little bit about kind of this lateral discrimination is what you call it.
Yeah. Obviously I am pasty white, so I can't speak to the experiences of people of color. I am aware that there is lateral discrimination within communities of color, but I don't have any experience with that. I've always had white privilege. But I am queer and I am disabled, and I have experienced so queer lateral discrimination. So I'm a trans man and I am something called aroace or aromantic asexual. Both of those identities are more discriminated against even by other queer people, even though we're kind of all united under this
LGBTQ
yeah and
label.
and we all share the discrimination and barriers to access and help that comes from being sexually divergent from heterosexual relationships and also from cisgender society.
Can you explain really quick cisgender?
Cisgender is the term used. It's just a descriptive term that is used to describe someone who identifies with the sex they were assigned at birth. So
Okay.
if you were assigned a woman at birth, so female at birth, and you are a woman, then you are a cis woman. And the same goes for men.
Can I just clarify for our audience? Because I know a lot of people are upset and confused about the labels, but we have so many layers of complicated, like you're talking about discrimination right now. And so I am a white, cis female. Is that how I'd call myself?
You can use woman, you can use whatever term you want to describe your gender. It's just we use the terms trans and cis to distinguish between communities that are affected by cis normativity. So communities that, because when you're born, people just assume that you are going to continue to identify with what you were assigned at birth. And that's not going to change. You're not going to deviate
And
from
marry
that.
someone your opposite sex and have children. So everyone expects
cis heteronormativity is what that is called. That whole societal expectation and the persecutory nature and oppressive nature that can come from cis heteronormative structures. So
correct.
when we are talking about cis normativity, we are talking about the expectation to continue identifying with what you were assigned at birth. And then when we are saying transgender, we are using that to describe anything that is not that deviates in some way from being wholly. So you're assigned female at birth and you're a woman and that's it. There's no you're not aware of any depths or non-binary anything in that identity. You're just a woman, then you are a cis woman.
Okay.
It is possible to both identify with the sex you were assigned at birth and also be non-binary, which is still a transgender identity.
Wait a minute. So if you were assigned a woman at birth and you present as a woman, yet you don't feel you're a woman, you think you're a man. And what I understand about transgender, um, your body and your brain reacts like the sex you identify with. Because male brains and female brains, as I understand, do not show up in brain scans the same way. Female brains react differently than male brains. I've heard this. I don't know if it's true.
It the evidence is inconclusive, and we are also re-examining a lot of what we know about the neurology of brains in general from
Mm.
any anything neurology. We're re-examining everything we thought we knew. But the evidence is already inconclusive about whether there are actually differences in how male and female brains work. There is some questionable evidence that transgender individuals have brain activity that is more concurrent with so if you have a trans man, their brain activity is more concurrent with men. And oh, this is important to clarify. Um, when you are adding trans to the beginning of something, you are using the gender that person identifies as. So I am a non-binary man. So I am a trans man. I was assigned female at birth, but I am a man. And you always use the gender that they identify as to describe trans is just trans is just a modifier, basically.
Okay. So it's appropriate to call you a white trans male because at birth you were told you were not, you were a woman, and but you identify as a man, and the trans explains that. Me, I was born a woman and I identify as a woman, so I'm cis because I identify. Okay, so that's the big deal. That's what everyone's getting upset about, right?
Yeah. And
No.
I I I understand the instinct to feel like cis is a slur or an insult. It's not meant as that. It is literally just to differentiate between people who have privilege under cis normativity and people who do not.
Right, and that's a good word to use, privilege and discrimination. I think they go hand in hand. I actually got in a big argument with my daughter who has the bipolar and ADHD. Um, and I know you know about that too. But we had a friend of ours who had lived with us, and he identified as a male, and we called him he. And then he decided he wanted to be called they. And it took me a long time. I was kind of like, what's the big deal? But after a long conversation with my daughter, I really started to respect that we're really limited and put in boxes when we're put in these gender expectations. As soon as I walk in a room as a white cis female, there are expectations that I'm going to be quiet, submissive, polite. These are expectations that are silently placed upon me, and I'm really not that. I've been a reporter for years. I've asked really uncomfortable questions all the time. And so people get very uncomfortable with me. And so, but it's hardly anything of what you struggle with. I mean, there's an all-out war going on against trans people right now.
Yeah. Um I'm going to be frank, it is kind of terrifying to be a trans person right now. I
Yeah.
am very fortunate that I was born in the US. I am white. I have all the papers I need. I am not under any threat from deportation or any of those issues that are going on right now. But the war on transness, especially, and queerness in general, it's scary. It's a terrifying time to be in America.
And this affects your mental health, which is why we're talking today,
Yeah,
right? About mental health and discrimination, about how this really, and I want our audience to, because this is, like I said, we're in really difficult times, and we have some people in leadership that they're being unfair, and they're being cruel, and they're creating unnecessary problems. That's my opinion, but I
I
am working
agree.
in mental health. Thank you so much. I'm working in mental health, and there's research that I've found and talked about in another episode, a 40-year study done on twins in Sweden that found that adverse childhood experiences, in other words, were you bullied at home, saw incarceration, mental health, or substance abuse, those things, how we treat each other, is more important to our mental health than our genetics. And so that's why we're here talking to Aeron today. And I really appreciate what you're doing. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Um, the talking about lateral discrimination, especially. So you already have the wider societal condemnation of, for example, in the queer community, anyone who doesn't fit into this cis heteronormative mold. You have this discrimination from the outside, this pressure, this judgment from everyone. You face difficulties finding employment. You could be harassed. There's a lot of things you could deal with. There's even a chance of hate crimes, I'll be frank. Um,
Have you experienced any of this?
I've been discriminated against. I have been harassed. I have not suffered any hate crimes, thankfully.
I hope you never do.
I really hope so too. I am in a privileged part of the community because usually those of us who suffer hate crimes are people of color. They're more likely to experience that kind of violent discrimination. Um, but it can still be a barrier to work. I tried before my disabilities made it impossible for me to hold a job successfully. I volunteered for the Trevor Project, which is the leading organization for crisis support for LGBTQ plus and queer people. Um, I really loved working with them. I volunteered with them for a while. I was in the process of interviewing for a job. Um, I did not disclose in the course of those interviews that part of my queerness was being aromantic. I just didn't talk about my romantic orientation. I told them I was asexual because asexual is a little more accepted than aromantic, even though there's some judgment. And there was inclusive training with the Trevor Project that asexual people are valid and also need help. So I felt safe disclosing that. But I didn't feel safe disclosing that I was aromantic because I couldn't be sure that I wouldn't face discrimination and judgment on those grounds. I also didn't
Forgive me.
disclose my mental illnesses.
Okay, yeah, I can understand that one. And we'll get into that because just so the audience knows, mentally ill people with a mental health condition have a higher unemployment rate than people with a physical disability. So, could you, for the audience, because I'm struggling to understand the difference between asexual and aromantic, and why is that a big deal?
Okay. So asexual means you do not experience any sexual attraction. Um, it is really difficult for me to define what sexual attraction is. Um,
I think
to
people can fill in the blanks on that one.
Okay. Okay. Romantic attraction is, as best as I can define it, wanting to date someone, potentially wanting to marry them. My experience is I experience kissing as romantic, but I don't have any desire to kiss anyone. So that's part of my aromantic identity. Some people are asexual and do experience romantic attraction and they also don't want to kiss. My experience is different from that. I associate the lack of interest in kissing with my aromantic identity. But I don't want a life partner. I don't want to form a romantic relationship. I am very happy and content in my close platonic relationships. And that is just how I am happiest and how I am most healthy.
So I want to ask you, why do you think it's so threatening, even to the queer and LGBTQ plus community?
There's there's so much pressure in this world, it comes partially from heteronormativity to settle down, commit to one person, marry, get all of the benefits that come from marriage under our legal system, and produce children. There's a very normative set of expectations. And even for queer people, at least the expectation to have that romantic connect relationship and conform enough. There's sort of this attitude of, okay, you can date someone of the same gender, but you still have to get married, settle down, adopt children, or use IVF or something. Um,
Okay. I, for everyone out there, I was a libertarian for a long time. I know they're weird now, but we always believed that, love is love. And I grew up in Laguna Beach. There were a lot of queer people. We didn't call them queer. We called them gay. The name has changed. I'm that old. Um, so eh, I'm just really struggling because what is their business?
I I don't know why people care so much, but I've heard it said, my mother, I was talking to her about both asexuality and aromanticism. I did not disclose that I was aromantic. I just mentioned the community, and she said that makes you a psychopath.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's painful.
Yeah, it was a huge when I realized I was aromantic after all the judgment and the hatred I had seen against aromantic people, for the first time in like a decade, I got intensely suicidal. And um I made it because I had, hello everyone. This is my furry, Pippin. When he wants on the desk, there is absolutely no point in telling him no, because
A
he
lot of
will
people
get it
have cats.
anyway.
Pippin, you said?
Yes, his name is Pippin.
Love the Lord of the Rings. Woo!
Yes. Oh, this is a little tangential, but that is literally what he is named after. We were watching Lord of the Rings, and my father mentioned the Pippin character, at
Yes,
which
yes.
point this thing started fussing and meowing and seeming really excited, and we realized that he wanted to be called Pippin instead of his
Oh my
old name.
gosh, that is so cute. I love it. I love it. We renamed our dog Loki because he got in the trash, made a mess. He did not, and he didn't respond to any other name. We tried Pippin, he didn't like it, but we said Loki, and he picked up his ears, and we're like, all right, you are the god of mischief,
Yes.
and you want to be the god of mischief, and your
This
cat wants to be Pippin.
yes. Yes.
So
I
cute.
think he'd also appreciate being called Loki, because he is a bit. If he knew what that
Well,
meant,
yeah.
he's a troublemaker. He's actually in a little
Oh,
bit of trouble today because he picked a very bad fight with my other cat. Yeah,
well,
and
Pippin.
he injured my other cat, Curtis, unfortunately.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, I hope he behaves himself for the rest of the interview and doesn't get into more fights. So we were talking about why people care. I mean, if you have a relationship or not, if you decide to go in the bedroom with the same sex, I mean, honestly, you're not in everyone else's house. You're not in everyone else's face. I just, they must be really bored.
Yeah. I bored and Pippin, please get out of the way of the camera. Fine, I will hold you. Don't lick
Okay.
the ear with the headphone in, please.
I love cats.
Mischief, pure mischief.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but I can't really testify to what I remember before I knew I was aromantic. Um, I had a friend in high school who was openly aromantic and very proud of that identity, and I was uncomfortable with it because I had just internalized this kind of passive expectation in society that if you don't want romance, something is wrong with you. There's also, that trope in romance fiction where the character will start out, I don't want a relationship, I don't want to date, I'm not interested, I've never been interested in that, and then they'll just magically, the right person will come along and they're like, oh, I've wanted this all along. That contributes to what is called aerophobia. So it's the same difference as homophobia, it's just against aromantic people.
And so the suicide ideation is one of the things we really fear in the mental health world,
Yeah.
because that's a life and death issue. Besides suicide ideation, what other consequences have you had from this discrimination within these worlds where you're trying to find your people and they should be your people and they should be supporting you? And it's just, I guess it's really hard to let go of judgment and shame.
Yeah, it's been it's been difficult in the past. There's a lot of shame. There's the urge to go back in the closet, hide away, try to conform, try to be normal, try to be accepted. And that doubles to triples or even more when you have the experience of, so you're facing all of this judgment from without the queer community, but then you go to the queer community, especially mainstream queer spaces, and you face the exact same judgment, if not worse. That is intensely isolating and distressing and upsetting. And a sense of community, having communities, is a very important protective factor against suicide. And when you lose that because your community is judging you for something that you can't control, same as them, that becomes really dangerous.
So it sounds like you've successfully found a way to live right now. I mean, it doesn't sound like I know that you're going into classrooms. You actually went into 6 of my classroom presentations and rocked it with the kids. You go in there and you tell your mental health journey, which is a whole other journey we're going to talk to in another podcast. But um, what have you done to be sitting here with us today and to be joining NAMI Arizona and doing Ending the Silence and going out and being public? I mean, what did you do to get past the incredible just weight of the discrimination?
First off, I did find my community. I found it small scale first. Um, I actually am active in fandom spaces, so spaces that are tied around certain pieces of media that people are fans of, and they talk about it and interact and share things about it. I found people through those spaces that just coincidentally happened to be aromantic. Some of them were aromantic, a lot were asexual, pretty much all of them were queer. Um, all of them were neurodivergent.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Most of my friends, not a lot of my friends they deal with a little bit of depression and anxiety at times. And a couple have PTSD. Most of them don't have the conditions that I do. I have bipolar and psychosis, which is more genetically linked than necessarily environmental. Most of my friends have depression and anxiety as most likely a
Those
comorbidity because
aces
of environmental factors from being autistic and judged because of that, which we're going to talk about in a
later.
different podcast. Yeah.
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
But they understood me really well. I could talk to them. I could talk to them at length. I could talk to them about being aromantic, and their response was, "Oh, cool," and just giving me support and like, there's no reason for people to treat you badly. You still care about people. You still contribute to society. You still try to do the right thing. There's no reason why you're less valid just
Valuable.
because of how you love or don't love.
Brilliant.
Um,
Did you also use therapy with this too? Did you go to
yes,
therapy for
yes.
all this?
It took me a long time to be able to disclose to my therapist that I was aromantic. There is also, I will be honest, so aerophobia and acephobia, or those two combined, aphobia, um, is so normalized that conversion therapy against aromantic and asexual people is still extremely common, to the point it's not even called conversion therapy unless you know what you're talking about. So it is very dangerous to disclose to a therapist that you are aromantic or asexual, or they may decide that that is what you need therapy for, regardless of what you request.
Okay, so just so that our audience, if anyone out there is struggling with what you're struggling with, how do you trust if a therapist can understand asexual or aromantic?
Um, it takes time. It takes getting to know the therapist. That is not a guarantee. And if you deal with a therapist who is discriminating against you and treating you as though your sexuality is what makes you sick, get out. Get a different therapist. It may take time to find someone who works and who is respectful and kind and helpful for you, but you do not deserve to be treated like that. Take care of yourself, get out, find someone who cares, because there are plenty of people who do care. It just may be a little difficult to find them sometimes.
Did you find anyone, do you think word of mouth would be a good way to do it too? Or
Um,
do you think
I
it's
haven't I haven't stumbled across any spaces. Uh, there's not a lot of local aromantic asexual spaces because there's so few aromantic and asexual people at all.
Mhm.
Um, you don't. It's hard for us to get together and network, so you don't really have local, or at least I haven't found any local communities that are like, okay, this doctor was really nice for me, and so forth and so on. You find that with mental health in general and things like that. Um, but go on.
So you had wanted to talk about discrimination. Have we talked about the discrimination as you wanted to? I mean, it's, to me, it sounds like we have just talked about, that uh, you struggled with suicidal thoughts because of this discrimination, that you found it hard to find your community, but you have, that it was hard to find a therapist, but you did. So it sounds like, um, and it sounds like you didn't necessarily have family support. You're a really strong person. Um, Resilient. Is that why you think you have survived and thrived, or are working on
I
thriving?
Sometimes it's really difficult for me to give myself compliments, but yeah, considering the things I have dealt with, how sick I was after graduating high school, I was homeless and on the street and in a psychotic break. And I made it through, and I've just, the hurdles keep coming. I keep just collecting disabilities like Pokemon. Um,
Sorry, don't mean to laugh.
no, it's fine. I was trying to be funny.
I'm good. You succeeded. Because you're right. Every time I talk to you, Aaron, I'm like, oh my God, you have that too, and that, and that. How do you like do that? And yet, Aaron, you are here with me and you are trying to help other people and you've got purpose in your life, which I think, and NAMI teaches that. NAMI has a peer-to-peer class I've taken because I struggled with bulimia for 42 years. And then I have a daughter with bipolar and ADHD. So I've done both sides. I'm a family member and a peer. I have sympathy for both sides, but Aaron, you're an inspiration to me. And that's why I wanted you on this podcast, because I really believe that together we can do this. And NAMI is kind of a safe space, isn't it? I mean, you had some problems with it. And we might talk about that later, but as a whole, NAMI's been pretty good.
Yeah, for the most part, it's been good, especially with the southeastern branch that I've worked with pretty much continuously, remotely. I live in a different area of Arizona, but I've loved everyone in the southeastern branch. I've always been very respected and accepted over there. Um, and now I had trouble with my local NAMI branch discriminating against me primarily for my autistic symptoms. Um, they tried to stop me from doing something called stimming, self stimulatory behavior, which is something that a lot of autistic people need to do. They're repetitive motions or behaviors or things like that help center us and keep us calm and help keep us regulated when we're just going through our day. Otherwise, we get overwhelmed and it causes problems. Um, they didn't want me to stem because they thought it was unprofessional to do that during presentations.
So
And
what
they,
you're saying, did you have, but you had the grace to say, hey, it didn't work out here. And NAMI Southeastern Arizona took you under their wings. Like I said, I was referred to you by someone from NAMI Southeastern Arizona, and you came in to my rescue as a youth presenter for 6 classes, and you came in remotely and really helped. So I just, this whole story we're listening to, this resilience you have, it's such a blessing to the audience because there might be more people out there that struggle with all these things you're struggling with.
yeah, I'm not going to lie, it's not easy. It's really difficult to get through. And, but there are people out there who will love you and care about you and support you just as much as anyone else. You may have to look for them for a while. You may even, unfortunately, be alone for a bit, but you will be, give it time. You'll get through this. You'll find your people. Online is a really great resource. If you can't find anyone locally, because no one locally is like you or understands you or anything else, you can find people online. There, there's so many people on the planet. You'll find your community somewhere. And once you have that, everything else gets a little easier to do.
And could you explain why it would get a little easier? Why? Because I keep touching about connection and community, but in this case, it sounds like it's literally a lifesaver for you.
Yeah, community is really important to me. Um, I actually am converting to Judaism. That was another community that I connected with deeply, and I've always wanted to have a spiritual community of some form. And
Hmm.
Judaism is partially a spiritual community, but I'm drawn to it for multiple reasons. But I won't get into the details. But it was great to find that and really settling and calming, but also just finding people who understand being queer, being different, being deviant, and mentally ill and neurodivergent, and seeing the world differently, experiencing the world differently, and dealing with chronic pain and all of these things that for so long just isolated me more and more and more. I now have a, I don't have like a ridiculously big community, but I have an intimate one and I have a lot of close friends. And it just, I have a hard day and I go into our shared messaging platforms and I'm just like, this and this happened and life sucks right now. And they're just like, yeah, mine does too a little bit. I'm here, I'm listening, I'm supporting, I love you. And I return the favor whenever they need it. And it makes a huge difference.
Thank you for saying that. I mean, it's those little things, right? Like being able to reach out and just say, I'm having a bad day, and someone goes, I get it, and I'm here for you. I mean, that little thing right there makes all the difference, makes it worth living, doesn't it?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. Because with our ending the silence, the point is to go in to talk about the signs and symptoms of mental health and, more importantly, suicide. And you know those intimately. And I know with my daughter, she had suicide ideation as well. And as a parent, it's terrifying. And we don't want anyone to consider suicide because I'm listening to Aeron and I'm getting a lot of hope. I hope you out there get a lot of hope too, because that's why I wanted Aeron on the show. Hot topics. I know they're in the news right now. I know it's really frightening, but if we do all come together, we can make a difference.
Sorry, my cat is trying to knock over my ring light. He's got to go down on the floor.
Well, we're just about ready to wrap up. So, are there any final things you wanted to say to the audience to wrap up about this discussion about discrimination?
I think I've said the parts that are most essential to coping with discrimination in general. Also, in general, anytime you're dealing with any mental health problems, investing time in yourself, taking care of yourself, doing things that you enjoy and like doing is really important and really essential. And making sure that your physical health is reasonably taken care of, because you start feeling bad physically and then your mental health goes, or you neglect your mental health and then your physical health starts deteriorating. They're very connected. So make sure that you're on top of both of those and you'll be okay. You'll get through it.
Thank you, Aeron, for your wise advice. And I'm looking forward to coming back and talking to you about autism, another hot topic.
Yes.
Aeron faced a lot of challenges: autism, depression, bipolar, and ADHD. But you know what hurt the worst? Discrimination, rejection by friends and family, and even by people he might have looked to for help. Straight family members who judge gays, and gays who judge transgenders, and everyone judges people with a mental health condition. So are the people facing discrimination too sensitive? Should they just shake it off, ignore the remarks, the lost friendships, the looks from a supervisor, the dismissal by a doctor? In fact, a lot of people say, buck up, don't take it so hard, move on. Well, it turns out that discrimination imposes a terrible burden. It doesn't matter if you're a woman, a black man, a Hispanic day laborer, a lesbian, or bipolar. Decades of research shows that discrimination affects our physical and mental health. We found a wealth of studies involving thousands of people in different cultures. Again and again, those studies found that experiencing discrimination has a profound impact on your mental health. Experiencing discrimination significantly increases the risk you will suffer depression, stress disorders, anxiety, physical illness, alcoholism, drug use, eating disorders, anger disorders, PTSD, obesity, diabetes, heart disease, even risky sexual behavior. That list came from research published on the National Institutes of Health website. It actually makes sense. We're social creatures, so rejection by the group, judgment, and shame have a profound and long-lasting impact. Discrimination, the shame others impose on us and the shame we accept, even changes the brain. Animal studies show that the lack of normal positive interaction with others permanently affects the neurotransmitters serotonin and dopamine in the brain. And a brain scan of people as they read an account about being discriminated against showed huge activity in the areas of the brain controlling emotion. Most people report feeling discriminated against. Some 70% of U.S. citizens say they've experienced discrimination. For Asians, Blacks, and Hispanics, that mostly involved race. For women, that mostly involved sexism. For white men, that mostly involved ageism. A smaller number say they encounter prejudice at least once a week, but often daily. Most of the research involves racial discrimination and sexism, which is unfortunately alive and well. For Aeron, the discrimination involved being transgender. Perhaps that's why people struggling with gender identity issues have twice the suicide rate as the general population. Here at NAMI, we're concerned about perhaps the most stigmatized group of all, people with a serious mental illness. You should look at the NAMI summary of the systematic prejudice against people with mental health conditions. You can find a link in our research notes on the website strengthbeyondstruggle.org. Did you know we have 3 times more people with a serious mental health condition in prisons as in hospitals? Only a third of the seriously mentally ill, or SMI, population in jail gets any treatment at all. And out here in the world, only about half get treatment. That's because of stigma and the shame those sufferers take into their own hearts. Stigma is the reason why Medicaid and Medicare have strict limits on treatment for SMI, but not other physical disorders. That's why people with SMI die 25 years sooner than the general population. That's why their unemployment rate is higher and their salaries are lower. They're less likely to have insurance. Their doctors believe they won't follow recommendations. They can't find housing. Health insurance often won't cover the medications they need. And if they do get arrested for their odd behavior, they'll spend 3 times as long in jail before they even get into court. Every culture stigmatizes the mentally ill in a way that makes everything worse, according to research published on the open journal Curious. Many Asian cultures see mental illness as a weakness, a failure of self-control that shames the family. Many African cultures attribute mental illness to a curse or possession by evil spirits. Arab cultures see it as a divine punishment. Latin American cultures see it as a sign of personal weakness and a lack of willpower. Here in the Western culture, we have embraced the disease model, but still see those with a mental health condition as dangerous. Now imagine you're Aeron. Think of the layers of stigma and judgment. That's why I admire him for speaking up, for braving the stigma and ending the silence.
It's okay to just be me. We're all made to be unique. It's okay to have my needs. It's okay to be me. What's easy for others are struggles for me. I do things differently. Doesn't make me broken. It just makes me me. People out there help me through, ones who care about me and you. Through my struggles I find my strength. Feels so good to be me. What's easy for others are struggles for me. I do things differently. Doesn't make me broken. It just makes me me. People helping me to get through have their own struggles too. Even though they have their strength, they are human like me. Through these struggles we build our strength. We all want to feel healthy. Even though we make mistakes, struggles build our strength.